Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another film review. Rooting through my films, I've been trying to go through a lot that I've filed and haven't got around to watching yet. And I came across this old Gothic classic that I remember buying a long time ago and just never got around to reviewing it. So I am tonight, and it's called The Mill of the Stone Woman, released on Arrow Video. This is an Italian film. This is the collector's edition. It comes with a poster, it comes with a book, it comes with art cards, and in a nice box. This is an Italian stroke sort of French film, sort of filmed in Amsterdam. So it's a very European feeling of a film. And it's made in 1960. This is a very Gothic tale of an oldish professor who sort of lives and runs this sort of he'd sort of make statues and waxworks at a mill here in Amsterdam. And he owns like this mill, and he does all this sort of work. But his work is quite macabre. A lot of these sort of waxworks are, when you see in the film, of like executions. There's like a hanging woman. There's another hanging woman. There's a woman getting her in the stocks. There's a woman getting her head chopped off. There's all these sort of really macabre sort of waxwork displays in his sort of place where he shows on. He puts little shows on for the locals. Anyway, this guy arrives called Hans, who's our main character, and he's there to look over some works on a carousel that they're looking to build. And he's there to come to look at the works. So he's come there to this mill, and when he gets into the mill, he finally meets our professor and his sort of servant woman, and there's a doctor living there as well, and we'll get to the doctor in a bit. And then he sees this young sort of woman, beautiful woman, sort of hiding behind the curtains, and he's not sure who it is, and she looks quite distraught, and he wants to help, but they sort of hush him away to his room where he's going to be working, and the professor lays down the sort of the rules that he can only work 3 hours a day here and things like this because he's busy, and he'll help as much as he can, etc. Then we cut to like a bar there where there's like this sort of beautiful ginger redhead woman singing, and she's really nice, really pretty. And we meet some other characters there. We meet another woman and a guy, and the woman's a friend of Hans. Apparently they've known each other all their lives, and so he must be from this area, and he's come back there. Anyway, he turns up at the bar because he's there to meet them, but this is after an encounter he has with the professor's daughter, whose name, it's a very strange name, like Eiffel, something like that, or Eiffel, something like that. She's got a very strange name. Anyway, she's already fallen in love with him, and she's asking him to help her and all this sort of stuff, and she wants to meet him later at the evening at the mill. So he sort of agrees, and he goes off to the bar, and he meets up with his female friend and all that, and she's sort of already on at him, nagging him and all this sort of stuff. And then he goes back to the mill to meet the daughter, like Ethel or something like that. It's not Ethel, but she's got a strange name. He meets up with her, and they start canoodling, and obviously they make love, and we sort of cut. We don't get much of that in this because this is a 1960s film. Even for the Italians, it's a bit early. I could be wrong, but this is probably the first Italian horror film made in colour. So I'm not sure, but I think it is. But anyway, he then regrets it because the next day, his female friend and man arrive at the mill with other members of the public to see this wax display, and he sort of then Hans sort of tells the woman how much he loves her and stuff like this, and they start kissing, and the daughter's upstairs and she can see it, and so she's got this sort of rage building up with guilt, and she writes like a threatening letter to him, and all this, and it comes and he asks his friends about Ivor, the daughter, and they say yes, they know about her, but apparently she's got some illness. So she's got some illness, and she doesn't leave the mill. She stays in there all the time with her father and the doctor. The doctor is sort of out to try and help keep her alive and keep her well, but he's also fallen in love with her, but she's not interested. Um, anyway, starts making threats towards Hans and this sort of thing, and saying that she loves him and all this sort of thing like this, and they've only just met, and he said it can't happen, and all this sort of hoo-ha goes on, and then she sort of threatens him with a knife, but then freezes like stone and sort of collapses on the floor. And so he helps her and takes her back to her bedroom, and he can't see her breathing, so he thinks she's dead. So this is down to her illness. Her illness makes her turn to almost like stone, where she goes cold and solid and stuff like that. She doesn't look like, she does look quite sort of waxy when she does this, but she needs blood to survive. So what the doctor and the professor have been doing have been having local females and getting the blood from them, draining them to death of their blood, and putting them into his daughter. And later in the film, the gingerhead singer from the pub is one of the victims to this. And they do look very similar to our wax figures and stuff like this. So all this bizarre thing is going on, that the doctor and the professor are trying to keep the daughter alive by doing this. And sort of Hans sort of finds this out later on in the film, and the sort of film sort of escapades into a climatic sort of ending. Now, it's not a violent film. There's very minimal violence in this. It's just a horror story, and I mean the wax figures do look ghastly and horrible and quite disturbing. But there's no oodles of blood or anything like this in it. This is about the story, and the story unfolds. And one of the biggest things about this is the atmosphere. It is so well done. It's so atmospheric. It's amazing, and all the sort of the Gothic scenery is fantastic. The effort that's gone into this lighthouse, in the furnishings, in the stairwells, and in the sort of works of the mill looks amazing, because it's a windmill. It looks really fantastic, and even the shadows that are in there, because you get a sort of feeling of claustrophobic in it, because it's only a lighthouse, windmill. Sorry, they're the same sort of architecture, aren't they? And you've got all these sort of shadows coming through the windows, which lights up parts of the scene and not of others, which is really, really cool. And also there's some sounds in there, like occasionally you hear like a whimpering sound, or a woman sort of crying, or something like that, which I believe is the victims of the what's going on with the professor and the doctor, with the women they're sourcing blood from to keep the daughter alive. And so it sort of unfolds throughout the film. It's some strange bits in the film, because when he finds her, when they've had that discussion and it looks like she's died, and he puts her on the bed, he goes and visits the tomb in the graveyard and sees her body in there and stuff like this. So could be hers, could be a wax figure, we don't know. And he gets quite scared and upset and worried, and he speaks to the doctor, and the doctor gives him some medication, and then he starts hallucinating stuff. He starts hearing things like that. No one's talking to him, but you hear like the professor saying, "Oh, you've killed my daughter," and all this sort of thing. No, I haven't. No, I haven't. And then when he goes and talks to the doctor and the professor, they don't know what he's talking about, because he's been hallucinating. So it's got all this sort of hallucinogenic things going on, and it's very, very, very cool. It's a very atmospheric sort of movie. I'm going to score this a great watch and give it an 8 out of 10. It's not a 9 out of 10, because although it's very sort of eerie and atmospheric, it's not scary as such. It's it's got no sort of jump scares or anything like that in it. And obviously it's got no gore or violence, so it's a slow burn film. Like I said, the horror is in the story, in the sense of like, oh, you know, what a horrible sort of tale. When, you know, if you think about it, it's a little bit of a source of a vampire sort of story, where they're sourcing blood for their daughter, a bit like a Let the Right One In, right, with the man sourcing blood for her. So it's kind of like, it's got that sort of little bit of a feel to it, and it has a little bit of a Hammer feel to the film, because the way it looks, although I think it looks better than a Hammer film, it's still got that sort of look around it, and it's really, really cool. The pluses of this edition, it does look really nice and vibrant. There is some natural grain in there, which is really cool. Like when you're outside, there's a lot of sort of like, I think they must have filmed it on sort of really low foggy sort of mornings, because you've got lots of dew in the air and you can see that, which is quite cool. But when you're inside, it's very vibrant in colours, and the characters look amazing. There is the odd screen blur now and again, but again, it's of its age, and the screen blur actually helps, I think, a little bit on some occasions. And like I said, the wax figures look really cool, which is really good. It sort of puts it in line with House of Wax and stuff like that, if you like. That sort of, if you're a fan of that, you'll probably appreciate some of this film. Although it's not a House of Wax film, but it's got elements of that in there. It's got elements of sort of like European folklore and folk horror, and it's got elements of like a vampire thing, where they're trying to get the blood, and they got this woman who's got this horrible sort of disease that turns her to almost stone-like. She doesn't look stone; she just goes solid like it. So, because when I first got this, I thought, oh, is she going to turn into like a stone statue, like she's been seen by a gorgon or something? But no, it's not like that at all. She just goes sort of like really rigid and looks sort of waxy, plasticky when she does. So I guess that's the way they can do it. And the only way they can keep her alive is by getting blood. But has she died? You know, did she die? Is Hans got to worry, or is he making it up, or do they bring her back around? You need to watch it and find out. It's a really, really cool film. Yeah, I recommend it. The Mill of the Stone Woman, 8 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below. It's a real Gothic horror. It's a classic, and it's one of the really early sort of Italian sort of films. Italian films around this time were quite Gothic. They made the Barber film Black Sunday, came out the same year, and stuff like that. But I think this was the first one that was in colour of the Italian sort of horrors. And who would guess that they would go on to make some of the goriest and sickest films that were ever sort of made? And they make this like the classic sort of film. Like this is a bit like the horrible Doctor Hitchcock. Yeah, it's that sort of feel. It's got that Gothic feel to it. So it's really cool. If you like that, you'd probably love this. And if you like sort of slow burn films, you'd like it. If you like some of the sort of Hammer films, you'll probably like this too, because it's got that look to it. Really cool. Guys, thanks for checking this out. Until the next video, please check out some other channels. Check out How Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Designs, Cobweb channel, Pizzawell, I Am Ice Lord, Cat Watches, horror films, and Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House. And a massive shout out to the lad. Till next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.